In the beginning, there was only chaos, the gaping emptiness. Then, either all by themselves or out of the formless void, sprang forth three more primordial deities: Gaia, earth; Tartarus, the underworld; and Eros, love. Once love was there, Gaia and Chaos, two female deities, were able to procreate and shape everything known and unknown in the universe. Chaos gave birth to Erebos, darkness, and Nyx, night. Erebos slept with his sister, Nyx, and out of this union Aether, the bright upper air, and Hemera, the day, emerged. Afterward, feared by everyone but her brother, Nyx fashioned a family of haunting forces all by herself. Among others, her children included the hateful Moros, fate; the black cur, doom; Thanatos, death; Hypnos, sleep; Onero, dreams; Geras, old age; Ezus, pain; Nemesis, revenge; Eris, strife; Apathy, deceit; Philotes, sexual pleasure; Momos, blame; and the Hesperides, the daughters of the evening. Meanwhile, Gaia gave birth to Uranos, the starry sky. Uranos became Gaia's husband, surrounding her from all sides. Together, they produced three sets of children: the three one-eyed Cyclopses, the 300-handed monster, and the 12 Titans. However, Uranos was a cruel husband and an even crueler father. He hated his children and didn't want to allow them to see the light of day. So he imprisoned them into the hidden places of the earth, Gaia's womb. This angered Gaia, and she plotted with her sons against Uranos. She made a harp, a great adamant sickle, and tried to incite her children to attack Uranos. All were too afraid except the youngest Titan, Cronus. Gaia and Cronus set up an ambush for Uranos. As he was preparing to lay with Gaia, Cronus castrated him with a sickle, throwing his severed genitals into the ocean. It is unclear as to what happened to Uranos afterwards. He either died, withdrew from the earth, or exiled himself to Italy. From the blood that was spilled on the earth due to his castration emerged the giants, the Melai, the ash of tree nymphs, and the Erines, the Furies. From the sea foam that was produced when his genitals fell into the ocean arose Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty. Cronus became next ruler. He imprisoned the Cyclops and the 100-handed ones in Tartarus, and set the dragoness Campi to guard them. He married his sister, the Titaness Rhea, who bore him 5 children. However, Gaia and Uranos had both prophesied that Cronus would eventually be overthrown by one of his sons. So, much like his father, Cronus maltreated his children, devouring each of them at the time of their birth. Rhea was distressed by Cronus' treatment of her children, and, just like Gaia before her, plotted against her husband. On the advice of her mother, when it was time to give birth to her 6th child, Rhea hid herself on Crete, leaving the newborn child to be raised by the nymphs of the island. To conceal her act, she wrapped a stone in swaddling clothes and passed it off as a supposed baby of Cronus, who, unaware of her intentions, swallowed it yet again, apparently not realizing that a stone and a newborn child do not taste the same, or for that matter, even feel the same. This 6th child was Zeus, raised by the nymphs Adrestia and Ida, and the she-goat Amalthea. He quickly grew into a handsome youth in a cave on the Cretan Mount Ida. When the time came, he left Crete to ask his future wife, the Titaness Metis, wisdom, for advice on how to defeat Cronus. She answered by preparing a drink indistinguishable from Cronus' favorite wine, but designed to make him vomit for ages. Zeus disguised himself as the god's cupbearer and, after a while, successfully slipped Metis' drink to Cronus. The plan worked perfectly. Cronus started vomiting and spilled out all of Zeus' 5 siblings, but only after throwing up the stone. Called Omphalos, or the navel, the stone was later set up at Delphi by 2 eagles Zeus sent to meet at the center of the world. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Rhea's children, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, recognized Zeus as their leader. However, Cronus was still in command, and yet to be defeated. He was too old to protect himself from the attacks of his progeny, but he enlisted the help of the faithful Titans, who also feared the new generation of gods. This led to a decade-long war between the Titans and the Olympians, remembered by generations hence as the Titan Maki. Atlas became the Titans' leader and led his armies to many victories. At one point, it even seemed that Zeus would be defeated. However, at the advice of Gaia, he went to Tartarus and released the Cyclops and the 100 Hands. In gratitude, the Cyclops provided Zeus with his signature thunderbolt. They also made a trident for Poseidon and a helmet of invisibility for Hades. The tables had turned. However, as so many times before, the final victory would not be the result of brute force, but it would happen due to a cunning little trick, possibly devised by Prometheus, who deserted from the Titans' army beforehand. Armed with boulders, the 100 Hands set an ambush for the Titans. At the right time, Zeus retreated his forces, drawing the Titans into the 100 Hands trap. The 100-handed ones started raining down hundreds of boulders, with such a fury that the Titans thought the mountains were falling down upon them. They ran away, and Zeus could finally consider himself the king of the universe. Zeus exiled the Titans who had fought against him into Tartarus. He made an exception for Atlas though. Being the leader of the opposing force, he was punished to hold the universe on his shoulders. Zeus's power would be challenged on a few occasions afterwards. Just after the Titan Maki, his grandmother Gaia, outraged by the imprisonment of her children, as if she wasn't the cause of all this really, issued forth one last child from her, the monstrous Typhon. He was so fearsome that most of the gods fled the second they saw him. However, Zeus didn't hesitate. He faced the monster, and using the power of his lightning bolts, he was able to defeat it. Typhon was subsequently buried under Mount Etna in Sicily. They say that you can still hear him growling under the volcano, and that someday in the distant future, he will return to challenge Zeus once again. The Disney film Hercules has its own spin on this tale. In the movie, the muses sing that Zeus was the sole god who defeated the Titans with just a thunderbolt, drastically different from the actual tale, not even mentioning he had help from anyone else but himself. The newly released Netflix anime series titled Blood of Zeus also has its own version. Their version goes that, back when the world was new, the gods who were the masters of light defeated the Titans, the family of darkness. But as the last Titan fell, he swore a curse on the gods, and when his blood struck the sea, the giants were born. These monsters were brought into this world for a single purpose, to destroy the realm of the gods. And for this reason, a hellish war erupted, for the great Gigantomachy had begun. The gods swore to defeat the giants, and rid them from the earth. Both gods and giants alike fell. Still, neither side would relent, and the two factions battled on endlessly, incapable of conquering the other. Until one day Zeus convinced two of the giants to take up arms with the gods, and with this, reason and compromise were introduced to the world. Soon, Zeus would lead one final attack, and with the help of the two good giants, they were able to cause the rest of the giants to fall. Zeus then ordered Hermes to gather the giants' souls and put them in a box, while the remains were cast into the ocean by Poseidon to be forever swallowed by the tides. The smithing god Hephaestus forged the grand automaton Talos to stand guard over the cauldron that held the giants' souls, forever sworn to keep it shut, so that this evil would never return. This tale was told to the main character, a young man named Heron, by an elderly man in order to explain why the town he lived in now had demons running around killing people. This tale is so much closer to the original than the Disney version, though this one had gods helping out during the war who wouldn't even be alive yet until much later. Other than that, I think it's a pretty interesting take on the creation story.